What is up, everybody? Welcome to the second edition of Mile High Market Mastery Live. We are diving in today back to an old favorite of return on investment. So we're going to get rolling. But what if I told you that 63% of Denver homeowners were choosing to renovate their homes over moving in 2025? Would this put a little more weight on the decisions you're making? Because ultimately, as the market shifts, as things change, people are going to want to start moving again. And it 100% relies on your situation and everything. But with the lower interest rates and where people are at, we are definitely seeing that homeowners are choosing to make their current space with their current mortgage and that low interest rate work. And so, what are the return on investment? This is something that everybody talks about. So, we're going to dive into all of that. Please feel free to ask any questions. I will answer them live. We will eventually get to the point where that that occurs. But for now, we are just going to kind of jam out, see how things are going, see how you're doing, and talk about it. If you don't know, I'm Jeremy Kane with eXp Realty. I help people buy and sell real estate here in the state of Colorado. And I absolutely love this conversation because if I am a real estate agent and I help you buy or sell a home, then the ROI on these improvements are absolutely amazing. What's that mean? Well, first and foremost, we need to have real conversations around what is going on, right? As we move into, this different market, as things have changed a little bit, we want to make sure that every single thing that we are doing has absolute, value in what we are putting into our home. And so as we do this, we're going to talk a lot about this, but I just wanted to first and foremost, talk to you guys about exactly what we are going to do. So let's see here. We just want to make sure that everybody's popping on and able to see it over on the Facebook side, which it does not see. So let me just see if we can get that. But let's kind of dive in. We'll get that later, I guess. One thing, let me just see here. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to dive in. If you don't know, Jeremy Kane, eXp Realty, but let's talk about return on investment. Do you know what the number one return on investment is? Well, I'm going to talk about that. But first, let's talk about the market. And as the Denver market is shifting, the median price around 650,000, inventory rising, something that's, we've been talking about, we talked extensively about last week. And so higher rates have people starting to kind of protect their assets, right? And there's certainly pieces of the puzzle that come into life. And if people have to move and this and that, the other thing, when we're talking about investing in your home, improving your home, we need to, kind of have the mindset of where we're going. How long are we going to be in the home? Are we going to try and hold it as a rental? Are we going to, push the can down the road and, are we just going to hold on to it and live here? We're going to, keep modifying, maybe adding on, changing bedroom setups, or are we looking for a short-term fix? And that's where people need to start. And the reason is, I will tell you, which is kind of counter to one of my points, but one of the worst, things you can do when you're talking about return on investment is attach a long-term, additional payoff to your home. So whether that's solar panels or windows or anything like that, the truth is that the ROI has a lot to do with full ownership. So if you're leasing solar panels or you're, paying them off over 20 years, that's a major problem, right? And that's not what we're talking about return on investment. When we're talking about return on investment, we need to have those things or those improvements fully paid for. So that's the first thing I want to say to what we're kind of talking about. So if you are buying solar panels for your house and you want to pay for them over 20 years on a lease or a buy, whatever it is, that asset and that improvement does not necessarily provide a return on investment until it's fully paid off. And once it's fully paid off, especially with the solar panel world, they're going to be obsolete, right? Windows probably as well. If you're, taking a HELOC that you're paying back, the minimum and you're going to extend it out. So, or anything you're taking a HELOC for. So there's certainly opportunities for that. A HELOC is a home equity line of credit. And if you're taking money from your home and putting it towards improvements, we want to make sure that we are doing that in a way that makes sense. So as we kind of go down this rabbit hole of improvements, I want to first make known that all of the things that I'm going to talk about, everything that I am saying to you is based on the improvement being fully paid off. That is also the case when we're talking about the improvements, big or small, the percentage of return on investment and all of that. So while we're diving into all of this, that's the first thing we need to talk about. And so as we move forward, we will understand, and I'm still trying to get this to flip over on Facebook, but it's not gonna. So we're just going to do it. We need to see that market. We need to understand what market we're going to get into. So when I moved into my current home, I said, hey, babe, let's make these improvements how we want to, because that was a lifestyle investment. Certainly, if something went poor and we needed to sell this house, we probably still would not get the full return on investment because the investments we made were for our lifestyle. Granted, I think they're pretty cool. That's not saying we won't get that, but when we're putting two, islands in, we have an outdoor countertop, we have, a huge window that, you can serve out. That's for our lifestyle. That's not necessarily something that someone's gonna be like, oh, this house is worth $100,000 more than that house because it has that window in it that allows me to serve food out onto the, serving area out on the patio. So those higher level, maybe a little bit higher cost things that we had done are, not going to be the full give back, right? The heated floors, the knocking out the walls, the engineer's beam that was put in the, kitchen so that our house didn't fall over, but it's opened up. Those aren't immediate return on investments. And that's why when we'll talk about it, we'll use the term minor, which basically in the improvement world means taking out what's there, making a cosmetic update. Sure, if it makes sense to open it up or do something along those lines, we can make that happen. So as we kind of push forward with this, that's the first thing. And you need to know the market. If you're looking for the immediate return on investment, which is what we're going to talk about, right? You want this to come back to you as soon as possible, as quick as possible. We need to understand the market, right? We need to understand what's going on out there. And with this said, the beauty as a homeowner is right now is probably not the greatest time to go out there and sell your house if you don't have to. So if you are going to modify it a little bit, let's talk about this. If the market changes and we get those interest rates down to the fives and, you're like, okay, I can get rid of this 3.5 or 4% interest rate for a 5 because we need it that bad. If that happens, are you the one that's going to be ready to put your house on the market? Because if you are, I want to talk to you about that piece. We need to look holistically at the situation. Yes, you're not willing to leave that 3% interest rate right now. But when there's 2 more kids in the picture, another dog, and that interest rate gets maybe a little closer to what you're used to, are you willing to cash out on this equity and take it to the next piece, right? And continue living that American dream and stacking that, primary residence, kind of goal that we have, the glory goal of getting everything paid off, by retirement or whatever. So that's the first key. So we need to have an honest assessment with ourselves, understanding where we're going to go, what we're going to do. Once we have that, and then it's just like, okay, yeah, if I lose my job and we have to relocate across the country or move back home or mom gets sick back home or whatever, and we have to do that, yes, I'd sell my house. Well, that's a extenuating circumstance. And depending on the likelihood, I would use that in figuring out exactly what level of finishes or level of investment I would put in, based on the return on investment and the likelihood of that happening. So that's the first thing. Know the market, know yourself, right? How long are you going to be here? And most people can answer that in generalities. Then always, plan for a rainy day, something happens, divorce, death, whatever, job, then we need to make sure that we're set up for success. And so when we talk about home improvements and ROI, that's the first thing I want to talk to you guys about. So understand the market. Next, the ROI for the seller, right? When we're talking about equity, it's not, a liquid number, right? When we're talking about what we're doing and what that equity looks like, it's not, okay, yeah, this is exactly what's going on, right? Because it's monopoly money. It's not liquid. It's not cash. So if I'm handing you the, keys to the castle and it's saying, hey, this has 198% ROI, that's based on what your market value is, and what you're going to get out of it. Okay. Now, it's also based on the amount you pay. So if I say, for instance, it's 100% ROI, that doesn't mean that you're going to get the amount of your house 100%. It means the amount of the investment you're likely to get out. Now, all of the other things around your house matter, right? It's, not like if you put the steel screen door on your front door or the steel door at the entry, you're going to get, that money back 100% of the time. If it's just a steel door and the kitchen looks like crap and the yard looks like crap and there's no doors on the hinges, those kind of things, that's a completely different ballgame, right? And so we need to talk about the quality of the space that we're actually doing overall. So a lot goes into this question, and that's why I'm doing this video, because I get asked this a lot. So while you're here, if you're watching right now or you're still watching, comment the number one thing that you might invest, in getting your home ready to sell. Put that comment down there, because I would love to have that, conversation with you. Also, if you are thinking about making an improvement, one of the things that I offer to all of my clients is an annual review. I'd be happy to extend that to you if you're one of my social media followers, where we can talk about exactly this. Every single year I talk about to my clients, if they'll, after they're done eating the crumble cookies, if they'll reach out and, click a button to talk with me, then I will have a conversation with them about, okay, what's on the horizon? Okay, what looks like? And then I'll make those connections, because, honestly, I have some of the best contractors, sometimes multiple good friends, great people that have done great work for my clients. I have them in my database. I have them, in my traditional way of life. Like, I talk to them often, and they'll take care of my people. So that's certainly something that we want to make sure that we are, working on as we go. So as we, I'm gonna try one more thing here. It's just not going to let me make it public. So you'll have to watch this on the replay on Instagram or Facebook, I guess. So let's get back to business here. All right. So the reality is real, right? Common mistakes that I see is overspending on luxury upgrades in mid-grade neighborhoods. So you also have to understand what your competition looks like. What have other people done? What's the return on investment? We all want to buy the worst home on the best block, but by the end of our time there and our tenure there, we want to have the best home on the same best block, because that's just what we do. There's a thing called pride in home ownership, but we need to make sure that we're not doing anything crazy. For instance, had I invested in putting a garage door opening instead of just a single hung window that slides up that I can pass food through, I certainly wouldn't have got the $3,000 or $4,000, $5,000, return on that investment, unless I found that very, very specific niche buyer. Right? Some people might be like, that's cool, but I'd rather have the sliding glass door that makes sense for my kids and dogs to go through. Right? Instead of having to open the garage every time somebody wants to go out there, or whatever that looks like. So Make sure that you're knowing that. Know your neighborhood, know what the finishes are, know what the level of buyer is going to be that's coming into that, right? Are you going to have somebody who's lived a luxury lifestyle or looking for that luxury lifestyle? Or is it a family home, right? You don't put, I mean, you do, but the big 5, 10, $20 million houses typically don't have, 10, 15, 20 kids running around in them on a day to day, right? The finishes, the level of the finishes all depend on the lifestyle that, is the likely home, the avatar of the person that's going to move in. So we want to make sure that does it, right? Um, Following trends that don't appeal to buyers. Okay. This is something that if you're not in the luxury market may not matter, right? For instance, if you are so niche down on, a family neighborhood and all of this, well, if you turn the, office and you take the doors off and turn it into a shelved playroom and all this stuff, well, somebody may come in there that doesn't have the family that needs that as an office space, right? So think about that and think about the things that come into it, that go into it, because it's key, right? And so when you're making these decisions and you're saying, okay, we got $10,000-$20,000 for improvements this year on the house, what is the best return on investment? Well, first thing I'm going to ask you, how long are you going to live there, right? Secondly, what'd you love about this house when you moved into it, right? Because that person that moved into the house is likely going to be the avatar of the person that buys it, whether it's 15 months from now, 15 years from now, or 100 years from now. The house has, a normal amount of square footage. It probably has a yard or doesn't, probably has bedrooms or doesn't, bathrooms, so on. So is it built for a small family with maybe one child, or is it built for a family with 3 to 5 kids? Like, what's that look like? And what's that play like? Right. So think about that piece when we're trying to do this. Right. So those are the biggest things. Think about the buyer psychology in Colorado, in Denver, or your local market. What are they doing? What is their mindset? Okay. In Colorado, we have the mountains. Certainly, the views are amazing, right? When they come into this, are they looking to, have a crash pad so they can get up to the mountains or downtown easily? Or are they looking to host a ton of people because they're, a growing family and their kids have friends and their neighbors and all the things, extroverts versus introverts? So think about that as we go. I will tell you that typically buyers lean towards curb appeal, energy efficiency, especially with high interest rates. They want to have the most energy efficient, and most Colorado buyers in most neighborhoods are very practical. They want to have the use. They want to have the place to store their bikes and their camping gear and all of that, right? If you build it all the way out, unfortunately, like I did, build it all the way out, and you have almost zero. Actually, I have zero unfinished square footage in my entire 3,600 square foot house. So then what are we going to need? Well, it's nice that I have a 3-car garage. We have that. I probably need a shed to maximize, that. A shed with my situation is going to probably be a higher return on investment than you can find on Google or ChatGPT for me, because I don't have any other place to store it. And I know that the potential buyer is probably going to have bikes and skis and other things because I live at the base of the mountains. Right. The thing that makes one of the things that makes my house desirable is that I can be literally in the foothills in 2.5 minutes from my driveway. Right. So there's things like that I need to think about as a homeowner, that when it is time to sell, that could be very appealing things to do. Now, could someone come across and use one of the bedrooms like I'm sitting in as storage because they only have, 2 kids and, they only need one guest room? Possibly. But that's a whole different ballgame. And so you never know. So you want to kind of maximize that pool. So there's individual things. And if you're interested in this, I would love to have a call with you, to chat with you, a consultation to say, okay, what are the strategies? What's the plan? What are you thinking? What are the positives? What do you love? What do you hate? And we'll go down the list, and then we can get to the ROI. Right? Because that's what's most important is, okay, ROI doesn't matter for me because I'm likely going to be in this house until my 2.5-year-old or almost 3-year-old is graduating college or high school at the very least. So I got a little bit of time. So likely when I, go to sell the house, the kitchen that we just remodeled 3 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever it's been, it's actually been 7, which is crazy. Um, I know that that's going to be a little bit outdated. I'm going to have to change it, right? But it may be a cosmetic flip at that point because the floor plan is done. I do joke with my clients and people all the time that when are we going to start putting walls back up in Colorado, because we just open them all up and go from there. So that's very important to kind of understand and work through. So get to that, right? If you want a return on investment consultation, comment below ROI consultation and I will reach out, or send me a DM over on Instagram or Facebook, and I will certainly get that on the books with you. I'll get you my link. We can book a time. So now the time has come. What are the top 5 return on investment improvements that you can make currently in the Denver metro area? Coming in first, 194% return on investment, and my friends at Chris Garage and Ionic Garage Doors will absolutely love this because it is your garage door replacement. Oddly enough, I just got mine replaced on an insurance claim for hail. Why is this? Right? Curb appeal, security, and climate, right? I certainly do work out in my garage. So those insulated garage doors come the wintertime are going to come in handy. Doesn't make it super warm, but it helps a little bit versus the old wood, non-insulated garage doors that had gaps on the bottom and all those things, right? So that's number one return on investment. 194% return on investment are those garage doors. 1,500 to 5,000. I would say it's closer to the 5,000 range than the internet provided me right there. But reach out to my people, Bobby over at Ionic Garage Doors or Chris over at Chris Garage Doors. Absolutely amazing guys and friends of mine as well. Steel entry doors, 188% return on investment, $2,300 on average. Why? Again, the energy and the security go a long way. It's also a huge piece of value is that curb appeal. So if it can, I'm not talking about the big gaudy metal, things with the little flowers on them, but those steel security doors. Colorado is a great climate to live in. Most of the year you can leave those open. The air flows through, get that cross breeze going. If you can get a front to back cross breeze in Colorado, your energy bill will be a lot less in the summer because you won't be, pumping that AC all the time. As long as your AC is not on and you're leaving the doors open, like sometimes happens in my family. The next 80 to 96% return on investment is a minor kitchen repair. What does minor versus major mean? Well, we're talking about appliance replacement, maybe some cabinet, refacing probably. If you're doing a full cabinet remodel, typically that's kind of a major deal. Maybe some countertop swap, those kind of things make it a minor kitchen repair, right? Counters, paint, new hardware, mid-range appliances. Don't get the Viking stove in the non-luxury neighborhoods if you don't want to. But again, if you're a chef and you're going to live there for 15 years, have at it, right? Do you? And that's the fun part about, updating and remodeling and all the things is you get to live in this, right? My favorite thing about real estate and investing in real estate is you can't live in your stock portfolio. You can live off of it, but you can't live in it. So there's that, right? The next thing is energy efficient upgrades are huge because as we've gotten warmer, right? The insulation, I don't know if it's gotten 100% warmer where it's like we went from not needing AC besides 3 days a year to needing it 3 months continuously. But a lot of this will come with, if you get the right insulation, your energy costs will go down. Windows, high efficiency furnaces and air conditioners, and certainly appliances as well. So when in doubt, if we can live with those high efficiency upgrades, those are absolutely the ones that have, they would say 100% return on investment. Who knows? It's really interesting because I talk to people all the time and they're like, well, we have a new furnace. I'm like, well, your old furnace wasn't working, and it's kind of expected when you buy a house, no matter what the price of the furnace, there's a working furnace. So a new furnace isn't going to be like, oh man, like that's awesome. However, an old furnace will definitely be like, oh, that's a cost that we're going to need. So it takes away. It's more of a takeaway versus an upgrade, right? So yes, if you have the same exact house side by side and you have a new furnace in this one and an old furnace in this one, it's going to be a $10,000 difference. However, this home isn't going to be worth $10,000 more. This home is just $10,000 less. So that's kind of how that works. So be very careful when you're doing that. I was in this house the other day. It was actually a for sale by owner I was showing, and there was this water heater. It was like plastic on the outside. I'd never seen anything like it. Brand new furnace, match furnace. The condenser unit looked like a mini split, but turned out it was an air conditioner. Like high end, at least looking appliances, HVAC appliances. Okay. Are they going to get their full money back on those? Probably not. You could have installed a, normal water heater that was brand new for $1,500. And that's, again, going to be like a nice to have, but it's not like this. Okay, now that water heater's there, it's $1,500 more. No, it's just part of the house that's needed to live in it. So make sure that's the thing. And then I'll tell you right now, curb appeal is going to win every single time, especially when you're going to sell. So keep up with that. Landscaping, as full on landscaping projects are expensive, but done at $1,000-$1,500 a year, kept up, fertilized, seeded, weeded, watered. Those things really help. And I'll tell you right now, the curb appeal of my house really jumped. We got new roof, new gutters, paint, new garage doors, and new concrete. Right, concrete is another piece in Colorado that is part of curb appeal that's kind of expensive. They say there's two types of concrete in Colorado, the type that's cracked or the type that's going to crack. So having that concrete is nice, and not having the major, shifts and cracks and things like that, which apparently are inevitable, is huge. But curb appeal is 90 to 100% plus return on investment. So I hope you learned that the garage door is certainly the deal to focus on. If you're thinking about any of these projects, please reach out. Again, you can DM me. You can shoot me a text, 303-210-0378. We need to start with what you're looking for. If you're a buyer, what is, or thinking of buying or recently bought, what is the one thing that you noticed and one upgrade that you wish you had or that your new home did have that kind of put you over the edge? Put that in the comments below just so we can kind of see how that goes. Okay, so how do we do this? How do we start? Certainly give me a call. We'll go with it, but let's budget this. And I will tell you that if you're going to be in your house for longer than 5 years, it's probably not that big of a conversation to be like, okay, how much am I going to get from this? Because 5 years, a lot of things will be worn out a little bit, depending on how hard you are on it. So it's really the shorter amount of time that you're going to be in your home is where you really need to look at this return on investment when you're making improvements, right? It's the difference between maybe just getting granite countertops instead of quartz countertops. It's a difference in, the style of cabinets you buy, the paint you put on the walls, right? This is one thing that, a lot of people are like, oh, I love crazy paint colors. I love, I hate the boring, bland gray, blah, beige, whatever. Right? That the truth is that those neutrals allow people to kind of walk in and make their own. I will tell you that I've had much less buyers out of the 500 homes I've sold walk into a house and be like, oh man, I hate the gray, I'm not going to buy it. Versus, oh man, I hate the hot pink kitchen cabinets. That's going to be too much work, right? The bold, crazy colors stand out, and sometimes that's the hard no for those buyers. So make sure you're doing this. Start with a budget, understand the end goal, understand where you're going, how long you're going to be here, and then pick things that are going to last, right? Sometimes quality will, 100% win the day over luxury finishes or these wow items. If you're quality, quality, quality across the board, that home is probably going to sell unless you're in a neighborhood that needs the luxury finishes. So that's where I would start. Create a budget, stay within it, but understand you're also living there. So there's those pieces too. That's why the main piece is how long are we going to be here? So if you are thinking about upgrading your home, you're one of those 63% and you're like, okay, maybe this isn't for me. Let's look at the amount of money. What do you have to put into it? Does it make sense where you're at? Does it make sense to pull a HELOC based on where you're going, where you're going to be in 18 months, 3 years, 5 years? Because it very well may make sense for you to upgrade your house, being like moving, right? Upgrade your size of your home and all of that versus updating your current home and dealing with it based on your lifestyle. So let's have a conversation. You can call or text me anytime. But if you are interested in learning more about these, or you need a connection to anybody who sells any of the things I mentioned, or you're like, you know what, Jeremy, I love solar panels. I'm going to get solar panels. I don't care what you say. I'm putting a 20-year note on my house, whatever. I have people that will take care of you, because the truth is that I've seen time and time again where people, go with the guy that's knocking on their door, and then we're having an annual review and they're like, Jeremy, this is what's happening. It's not getting done. What do I do? And I'm like, well, you should have called me before you did it, because I would have told you not to do it. But that guy, I got a guy for that, but he can't do anything for you now. So make sure that you are staying on top of that and make sure that you're doing what you need to do so that you can 100% make the right decisions when it comes to building wealth through real estate, starting with your primary residence. So we'll see you next time. Like, comment, subscribe. I'd be happy to chat with you, and we'll see you on the next Mile High Market Mastery Live.